In 1971, 3 Minnesota school teachers created a game that would be played by almost every single American child growing up in the 80s and 90s. This is the story of how Bill Heinemann, Don Rawitsch, and Paul Dillenberger created the Oregon Trail. Oregon Trail has had many facelifts throughout the years, with new generations finding a new game with 3rd editions, 4th editions, 5th editions, but when it was first created, it was created on a teleprinter machine. This machine was a very basic computer that could only send and receive word messages. However, the game was operational and kids loved playing it. It was upgraded to graphics on MS-DOS and the Apple II. When the Apple II came out, it was purchased by most schools around the country, and this game was what made school fun. This was my favorite thing about school during my childhood. Now, if you're too young to know what an Apple II is, that kind of makes me a little bit sad. But this is what a personal computer used to look like. It was giant, bulky, got in the way, there was a keyboard. Yeah, not quite the best graphics whenever I say there were graphics. Now, there were earlier editions of the game that had even worse graphics. However, the Apple II was the one that I played in school. This game was released to the mass public on July of 1985, and I was born in '86. So the one that I played was the version for Apple II, and that did have a little bit better graphics and looked a lot better than the earlier versions on MS-DOS. Now, the 3 original creators of the game relinquished the IP over to MEC, Minnesota Educational Computing Consortium, and they tasked Philip Bouchard with making the game into a modern version that could be played on the Apple II. The game that Philip Bouchard created from the original IP is an absolute masterpiece, and it dominated classrooms. It was the best part about going to school. The graphics were great, it was a very intense game, and to be honest, the greatest and craziest thing about this was that it was an educational game. It taught students across America geography, history, math, westward expansion. It taught reading. It was a great game, and the best part about the game was that you got to pick the name of your party, so it made you connected to the game. You could name your brother and sister and mom and dad, and when they got dysentery and died, it felt all that harder on you that you know, that's my mom. She just died of dysentery. And speaking of death, players before you could write out their tombstone that would be saved in the files of the game. So as you were traveling along, you could stop and look at other people's progress to see where they died. But by far the best and most memorable part of Oregon Trail was the hunting. Every boy in school wanted to hunt animals. It didn't matter, you could only carry back 100 pounds. We all wanted to shoot 20 bison and 15 deer every single time. I can't tell you how many times I ran out of bullets in this game. Oregon Trail was released to critical acclaim. Teachers loved it and used it all across the world. Oregon Trail was released in Japan and France. It also had spin-offs including Amazon Trail and African Trail. It was the first ever educational game inducted into the Video Game Hall of Fame in 2016. It has been released on multiple devices throughout the generations, including a new release of the game on Nintendo Switch, which I can't wait to play, but I'm not paying $30 for. So as soon as that goes on 90% discount, I think I'll pick it up for $3. However, it was released on a cell phone that I kept for years after I stopped using this phone. And it wasn't that I would go looking for the phone to play Oregon Trail, but you better believe me, every time I was looking through my drawers and found that phone, yeah, I plugged it in and played for a little bit. Did you have this game on a certain device that you kept way longer than you actually used the device just so that you could play this video game? If so, I feel your pain. Leave a comment below and we'll talk about it. Now, Oregon Trail was technically an educational game. It taught kids math and reading and a lot of social studies and geography, but it was different. I mean, you don't see anyone running out to make new versions of Word Munchers or Number Munchers. Like, it was a game that was new. It was a simulation game. It was living the life of an Oregon Trail Wagoneer pioneer. It was trying to survive this rugged terrain and make it all the way to this goal of Oregon and win the game. It was rough, it was tumble, you could die, a lot of your party could die. It was tough, it was a good game as well as educational. This game absolutely deserves to be in the World Video Game Hall of Fame. Hands down, it's a fantastic game, and I'm glad that it's receiving the accolades that it deserves. It sold more than 65 million copies. Time magazine ranked it the 9th best video game of all time. You can find it on Facebook, you can find it on iPhone, you can find it on Nintendo Switch. You can find card game versions of this game. It is everywhere. It has made so much money throughout the years. The new version, as mentioned, cost $30. And unfortunately, Don Rawitsch, Paul Dillenberger, and Bill Heinemann never made $1 off of this game. They created one of the greatest educational IPs in the history of man, and the only thing they ever got in return was this jacket and a copy of the game at one of the expos that launched in appreciation. They didn't make any money. Fortunately for us, they're okay with that. They're absolutely fine with it. They're teachers. They wanted to make an educational game. They weren't trying to get rich. They weren't entrepreneurs. And we as a society owe them a lot. If they tried to make all the money that all of this game has made, it wouldn't be as good as it is. They made it for the love of making the game. They made it because they were passionate about being good teachers. They wanted to get kids involved. We owe them a lot of gratitude. This is a fantastic game. I will always cherish it. It'll always be with my childhood. I love this game, and thank you. Thank you, three gentlemen. It's a fantastic game. And it probably has a lot to do with my favorite game now. I'm not sure. I would like to thank Gaming Historian. He last week released a video, The Story of the Oregon Trail. I will leave a link below. It is a long form video, about an hour and a half long. It is fantastic, full of information, and definitely worth a watch. I would also like to mention that Independence, Missouri, the starting point in the video game, has a Santa Calagon Days festival every single year. That is the Santa Fe Trail, the California Trail, and the Oregon Trail. In case you would like to learn more about this, you can find their website in the link below. Thank you very much for watching the video. I appreciate it, and please leave a comment below if you remember this game fondly from your childhood like I do. Leave a comment, let me know.